A Battle Sisters list making great use of Novitiates has won a tournament of nearly 300 players at the US Open Tampa, getting first place. It defeated a diverse group of enemy factions. It wasn't all Eldar. There were Orcs, there were Tyranids, there were World Eaters. There were Eldar. But this one victory does not mean that the Battle Sisters are suddenly fixed. The Battle Sisters are still very hard to play casually for a lot of players, and our win rate is maybe gone up from 41%, but we're still looking at under 50% as a win rate. Jeffrey Kolodner is an outlier, but does some very interesting combos that I want to discuss, and has a nice approach to his Battle Sister army that keeps it very nice and fluffy. That's something I really appreciate. This is the list that he used, and there's a few things that I want to hove in on. The Novitiates are weaker than Battle Sisters, and they try to do combat with tiny swords. You can also have them equipped with autoguns, which makes them noticeably worse than Battle Sisters, but they can be made to work. The main ingredient is the Palatine, and the benefit of this combo is that the Palatine helps the Novitiates. Okay, good. But importantly, the Novitiates help the Palatine. If they didn't, there would be no reason to include the Novitiates in the first place. Two things make it work. One is the Sacred Banner, so that you can reroll charges and advance rolls. The Palatine wants to be in close combat, so being able to get there more reliably makes the Novitiates useful for her. The second one is Impetuous Fervor. That is a unit rule, and so if you put the Palatine in the unit, all of the models in the unit get it. And I have a video on character rules and how they work with units that helps explain things like that. You get to reroll hit rolls of 1. Now the Palatine is hitting on a 2+. If you're rerolling the 1s, then you're probably going to get all of your attacks hitting. Whether it's 4, just normally, or 5 with the Blade of St. Eleanor. And in this list, it has the Blade of St. Eleanor. And if you're attacking an enemy unit on an objective, then you get to reroll all hits. The reason you would want to reroll them all is because if you get 6s, the Palatine gives you lethal hits, meaning that you automatically wound. The low strength of the sisters, being strength 4 with their Palatine sword or Novitiate melee weapons, means we can be doing some damage. And also, if the Palatine discards a miracle dice, probably going to be one of the low, more useless miracle dice like a 1 or a 2, then you can cause a mortal wound for every successful wound. So that could be up to 5 mortal wounds. It's only on the Palatine model, not on the unit. And the Novitiates get lethal hits from the Palatine, and with their combat rerolls to try and get as many 6s as possible, it doesn't matter about their low strength. Using these rules combined with the rerolls and the mortal wounds, it killed Angron. Well, it finished off Angron. Well, it inconvenienced Angron to make him go away for a bit. This is not a combo that I usually do. I rely more on shooting because I like the Sacred Rose aesthetic, so Battle Sisters more than Novitiates. And if I want to be charging into combat, then we have Arco-Flagellants and Repentia. But this is a very nice combo I recommend. Best used when you have the Blade of St. Eleanor as well, which is something that people put on their Palatines. Good. Sensible. But this isn't the only combo that I don't usually do. But it is still a good combo. A lot of Sisters players in 10th edition, and even more so in 9th edition with the Bloody Rose meta, they mostly ignored generating miracle dice and had it as a nice little extra. Mr. Kolodner, I hope I'm saying that right, that is the British pronunciation. It may be different from what he's used to, but not everyone can pronounce von Carmian when they see it written down. And even though we both play Battle Sisters, I don't want to presume that I'm on first name terms with Jeffrey. So Mr. Kolodner went quite heavily into generating miracle dice and then trying to generate good ones. A Battle Sister squad with Junith and also an Imagifier with the Litanies of Faith. Now, if you're going to be protecting a unit, I prefer the Hospitaller because a 5+ Feel No Pain is better than a 4+ Invulnerable save on Battle Sisters. But consider the other ability, the Litany of Deeds. This lets you reroll a miracle dice when you generate it to try and get a better one. And then the enhancement Litanies of Faith also lets you take bad miracle dice and re-roll them. Usually only 1, but if you're wounded or your Battle Sister squad is below half strength, then you can do 3. This was giving the Sisters list a very good pool of decent, useful miracle dice. Not just ones you're throwing away on multiple Palatines to get mortal wounds, which is something that I've been doing more often. An alternative that I also do, it's something I've recommended before, and it's been turning up in winning Sisters listed tournaments since then, showing that it still works, is to have a Triumph following along a Diologus as a combo, and that makes all of the miracle dice a 6. But you can also add a Palatine on top of that. So you have the Palatine and Diologus in the same Battle Sister squad, the Triumph is nearby, using its auras, and then the lethal hits brought by the Palatine make the Diologuses automatically turning a miracle dice into a 6. That 6 now auto wounds. It gets around the fact that Melters need 5s to wound currently against, like, every vehicle. It also makes the Battle Sister squad the damage dealers of the army. The drawback is that it makes them quite weak, and you can't also add a Hospitaller to keep them alive. And you can't do this with Retributors because you can only double up characters on a Battle Sister squad. The winning list also includes Morwen Val and 1 unit of Paragon Warsuits. That is generally how we're seeing it at tournaments. Just the 1 squad of Paragon Warsuits, and only if you also have Morwen Val. The weapons were 3 multi-melters. Again, we're wounding on 5s, but either using decent miracle dice, and the AP -4 is going to get through most saves, but Morwen Val's reroll to hit and rerolls to wound is usually enough to carry the melters through to do some damage. The Paragon Warsuits also have at least 1 War Mace. That means that you can do Tank Shock, because this is a Walker unit, even if it's a very, very light one. And that Tank Shock is at strength 12, meaning you get a lot of dice for an average of 4 mortal wounds, whereas anyone else using the stratagem is on 3 mortal wounds average. The Battle Sister squads are also there to generate more miracle dice. You can spread a Battle Sister squad of 5 or 10 models, if there's enough space, over 2 objectives, and then you are generating 2 miracle dice from that squad. Because the rule on the Battle Sisters isn't that you generate a miracle dice per Battle Sister squad, it's per objective that a Battle Sister model is on. And the Immolator tank can be used to split a Battle Sister squad into 2 squads of 5. This gives you more sisters to generate more miracle dice and to use as blocking units to force enemy units to come closer before you counterattack with your Novitiates, Warsuits, and the firepower from Juna's squad. When those sister squads die, you generate miracle dice, and as long as they are within 12 inches of the Imagifier, you get to re-roll those miracle dice. After splitting the sisters and dropping 1 squad of 5 near an objective, the Immolator can be used to block movement and the firepower of enemy units, and provide a little bit of extra damage. If you're wanting miracle dice, as this list very much is, Battle Sisters are the way to go. If you want to try damage and just hold objectives, I don't mind Dominions. 4 Dominions with all of the special weapons in one group, getting out of the Immolator with rerolls to wound can make their melter guns or their flamers very effective, while the other squad just holds an objective. In this list, it was a Retributor squad with 4 multi-melters that was doing that. Inside an Immolator, they get out, you get full rerolls to wound when you do so, because of the Immolator special ability. The choice of tanks is also different to mine. I like the Exorcist. I like the Exorcist mainly because bringing a church organ to a tank fight is way cooler than anything else I could think of. To me, the Castigator looks like she was born from someone putting a Leman Russ and a Space Marine Predator in a room together for a couple of hours, and the result was this creature. The Exorcist being able to fire indirectly is something I really like. The Castigator has a lot of shots. The battle cannon is D6 plus 3, add on top of that 3 heavy bolters, and a storm bolter, and a hunter-killer missile. Yeah, that's a lot of shots. And it can punch through Space Marine hordes. We're seeing that more with Black Templars only being 13 points in a Crusader squad. This list includes 2 Mortifiers. I'm a Penitent Engine preferer, but the reason is they have different roles. I use them one way, this list used them a different way. The Buzzblade is still there as a strength 10 thing that can hurt vehicles or heavy infantry like Space Marines and Chaos Space Marines, and it's there to be aggressive to make the enemy come into the firing lanes, things that exist on tournament tables that have preset objective locations and terrain. The reason you use a Mortifier instead of a 5-lady squad of Battle Sisters is because this has to be tough enough for the enemy to bring out the heavy hitters to beat it. And so when you're thinking in terms of toughness rather than just damage, the 3+ save that you can have and the 6+ invulnerable save on the Mortifier over the Penitent Engine's 4+ save only makes it tougher. I prefer to do a hide and strike with the Penitent Engines where you have it behind cover and then you can advance and charge in the same turn and do some damage to whatever target you want. But that's my list, not this list. And the last thing I want to point out is the use of Death Cult Assassins instead of Crusaders. Crusaders and Death Cult Assassins can outflank, they can perform secondary objectives, but I think Mr. Kolodner may prefer them over the Crusaders because it fits with his army being all female. Each of his units having a moniker. One of the Mortifiers is called the Fool, which could just be fluff, or it could have a really fun Crusade background. And this is why I like this list, and I talked about it when I don't normally care much for tournament action. And most of you watching don't go to tournaments. It also let me talk about the Novitiate Palatine combo in a way that potentially gets me more views. We'll see how that works out. This list wasn't the way that I play Battle Sisters, and I play Battle Sisters in a more casual setting, so it gave me the chance to talk about other combos that aren't normally featured. So I'll leave you with the video on how to get Miracle Dice always being a 6, and my next video will be all about how to start your Battle Sisters journey, so that one day you too can win tournaments. Potentially. Or just have a lot of fun with Battle Sisters. My darlings and viewers, I will see you there.